By the way, I love you all. God bless you. Glad you're all strong, healthy, non-blubbery Torah people. Get out there and get it done. How do you feel after your fast, Uliana? You doing well? That was brought up.
Yes, doing well. Kind of lightheaded sometimes when I
Okay.
do some things, but yeah, recovering my strengths, feeling much better now. Yeah,
And good.
thank
Okay.
you.
Everybody else doing well? Yesenia's probably able to work out again because she's not dying in 1,000 degrees. And Josie, you have to time your minute later. Did you get I'm like you have to time it and send it to me. But okay. So I'm going to tell you if you were completely debilitated in a wheelchair, bedridden, you can still be healthy to the best of your ability and manage your weight with your food. And so, what they usually talk about in the health industry, I've heard all sorts of different numbers, but when I was in it, and I didn't Google it now, so it could have changed, but it was always like 80% diet, 20% lifestyle. Like you can influence so much of the way you live and function by your diet alone. So even if you're not a fully able to be active through some disease, some sickness, some injury, if you are eating properly, you are going to maintain your weight. If you look at the plate of our father Abraham, what would you picture on his plate? What do you think Abraham, Yosef, those people were eating?
Non-processed, non-GMO foods,
Right? And what did the
breads,
most,
wheat,
yes, breads,
dairy,
grains. Breads
grains.
and grains are their primary thing. They fill in with vegetables. Vegetables are a big part of it. And meat is occasional. Look at the American diet. Meat is the centerpiece. If you go to other cultures, oftentimes grain and vegetables are the centerpiece. It's the focal. The animal products are complementary. The eggs, the dairy, the homemade cheeses. They didn't have a lot of cheeses back in Abraham's time. It was a cottage cheese is what they would do, the fermented um, probiotic type drinks, well, and foods. So when we look at this, we know that, okay, they survived and the Father designed them to function primarily without meat. Meat is a luxury. Let's do some math. They had seven of each clean animals. I do not believe it was seven pairs because for animal species, I run one bull to 20 cows. I can run one buck ram to sometimes, well, just 4 to 5. I try to do 4 to 5 goats or sheep. You don't need equal partners because while that woman's pregnant, that cow, not that woman, the female animal is pregnant, the man can get another female animal pregnant or whatever. Okay. So usually they do it at the same time. So they all calve and kid at the same time. But you only need the one male to do that job. Each female takes 9 months. That male can repopulate within minutes. So, if we were going to start eating meat every single day with no refrigeration, they would have wiped out the animals completely. We know that even in Noah's time, it was an occasional meat consumption. And the reason we have these cholesterols and these bad fats, please don't listen to the morons that tell you to eat beef tallow. Please do not listen to the people who tell you to eat the very food which is known to clog arteries. There's bad science, stupid science, and then there's actual truth. And let's look at what the Creator intended. When we were in the garden, He gave us the fruits and the vegetables, the herbs, then the grains, right? Because we had to work the field. And then the animal products and occasionally meat. It was a big deal to slaughter a fatted calf. Remember when Yeshua showed up to the party? Go ahead, Seen.
So yeah, I was just wondering because along those lines, when it talks about like when there was the famine and Jacob sent his sons down to Egypt to get the food, so they had cattle, they had tons of um livestock that they could have been eating, but they didn't want to starve. So I thought that was interesting
Well, because they
that
didn't really eat those animals. Those animals were used, first of all, when you shear your sheep, you make your wool.
Okay.
When you shear your goats, if you have certain cashmere goats and certain ones, you also make wool products from that. When you have your animals, I think Yesenia does this as well. You milk your goats, you milk your sheep, and it's way more viable and sustainable for us as people to milk an animal and make the product from that than to kill them. And what we see, I haven't eaten meat for most of my adult life. I stopped eating meat usually, primarily when I was 18. I very rarely ate meat after the age of 18. And then when I would, the father would just call me right back to vegetarian lifestyle. I would eat meat for a little bit and then he would say, "Okay, I want you no meat." I didn't understand because when you're young, you're pretty dumb. And I'm like, "What are you doing? Why can't I eat meat? I really like a cheeseburger." But whatever. I was like, I'll obey. And so for me, my body responds in the way that he's wanted me to with no meat. And it makes sense now that he's told me. Like, and now I understand this whole John the Baptist thing. He says you have to be fasting. He goes, I want you, because somebody else said that. God told me you're like John the Baptist. That's why you can't eat meat. I'm like, oh, well, that matches what he told me. Not that a, not that I'm John the Baptist. Please don't get some weird theory out here to give somebody headline news. John the Baptist back in a female form. No, that's not what I meant. I meant spiritually, he has me sharing, running in that vein of sharing with people. But I will say, when you look at Daniel and when he abstained from meat, it says he was healthy. And we see sicknesses, and they're trying to cover it up right now. I'm telling you, the propaganda you're hearing that beef tallow is healthy is from the beef market that is paying the government officials to run the ads. It is not true science. Do you know how many Texans are rich because of beef cattle? You know how many people are rich because of the animals they grow, and you think that this is benevolent? No. But I will say this. Butter is a super healthy fat. Olive oil is a healthy fat. We do know that the high heat processed oils can be very detrimental to our arteries. It was not natural. But it's not completely unnatural because if you crush a seed and you get some oil out of it, like if you crush the olive and get some oil out of it, it's not completely altogether unnatural. So we just have to like use prayer. Okay, Uliana.
Yeah, just regarding the beef tallow. So I even seen an ad that they are rendering beef tallow from the fat from the kidneys, which is the
Right.
very part that we are never to. Yes, it's not just
Right.
fat. They're
Right.
using the sacred fat that we are never to touch, basically. That's
Right.
another reason why we should not be eating that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and it does clog our arteries. I don't care what they say. Now, eggs are not high cholesterol. Eggs are beautiful, brain protecting, heart healthy cholesterol. Eat farm fresh eggs, all that you want. Um, they're great for you. So those are the things we want to look at. Now, that being said, we want to look at the vegetable component. So we have people from all over the country here. Your garden and world, your gardening is actually going to be very specific per your region. What you want to do, okay, I didn't think to pull up the screen because I don't have that. Just give me 1 second here. USDA growing zones. What you always want to make sure. I'm not sure what they do in Europe. I'm assuming they have a similar format. Okay, so let's pull this up and screen share. Share?
But couldn't they just still go off the same zones because isn't it based off of latitude or is it?
Not necessarily, no, because
No.
water
Okay.
influences everything. So when I was in
Oh,
Europe, like, France and Montana were very similar latitudes, but nothing nothing similar in most areas because of the Mediterranean Sea. Water makes everything different. So you can have Britain very similar to over here in New England, but the climate impact is way different. You have rain all the time in England. In New England, you get heavy snows from the lake effect snows and all these things. And so you can't just go off of straight lateral.
okay.
Well, now they changed the buttons. Of course, they one participant. Well, what in the world? Oh, there. I just had to click the right button. This grandma is a grandma for a reason. Okay, so when we look here, also I will tell you within each region, you can have little pockets of variance, okay? Now, let's look. California. in the orange. You guys are 8 to 10. You will be starting your seeds now. That means your tomato plants, your peppers, your eggplant, your Solanae family vegetables, your onions, for sure. You may have already started those. You may even just be going year round. But if you're starting your seeds from scratch, you have a very long growing season, almost never freezing. Well, you don't have freezing. And that zone right there allows you for a long growing season. The one thing is that many plants are still annuals. So annual plants need to be planted every year. They're not biennials, so they don't, because like cabbage is a biennial, chard is a biennial. Those types of vegetables are biennials, meaning one year they will grow, the second year they will produce the seeds. But tomatoes have the seed right inside the fruit pod. Peppers have the seeds right inside of them. So first year, annual plants have to be replanted every year. They will eventually lose the energy and the productivity typically within their root systems and their bodies or their little plant bodies, and they'll die. For the best results, you do want to start them again. Tomato seeds should be started 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks before you transplant them outside. 6 to 8 weeks before you put them outside. If they get bigger than that, there are some of you in Wyoming who get really zealous. Your tomatoes will almost all die if you start them now. If you start your tomato plants now, they get too big and there's too much of a shock when you put them outside. Unless you use very, very protected wall of waters, which I can't even find those things anymore almost, but they were these bags with little walls that you would set up for a week before you transplanted out and it made a little greenhouse. And if you're in a greenhouse, this doesn't apply. All the rules change in a greenhouse. Because you can kill your plants if it's too hot. You got to have the ventilation. I always had to open the windows in the day and have the fan sucking the hot air out every day, even in Wyoming, right? In the winter, sometimes I would have to go open the windows, turn on that fan and have it suck the hot air out. Because otherwise, those tomatoes gone in minutes. Now, that's the southern climate. You guys are going to be starting your seeds for your tomatoes, your peppers, your eggplant, your okra, celery, onions, those things now. You can direct plant now. You should be able to begin direct planting some of the cold season crops. If your temperatures are remaining above 40 degrees at night, you can even go down to 20 degrees at night if it's cabbage. Cabbage and kale and some of the tatsoi vegetables will sustain temperatures as low as 20 degrees at night if they're established. But those cool weather crops, and we'll talk about that here in a minute, cool weather crops for you in the California region, you probably need to get them going now. Because once you hit late March, April, those temperatures start soaring, it will cause your cool weather crops to what they say bolt, unless you put up shade cloth or have cooling systems in place to keep the temperatures down. I will also note California is actually probably pretty good in most regions. Texas sucks for growing plants and vegetables. I'm so sorry, Texans. You have like the worst growing conditions in the world. Because once those temperatures get hot above 90, your tomatoes won't even produce fruit anymore. But if you just get those high, even if it's hot and muggy and you're in the 80s, you're going to be fine. Tomatoes love it. But once it hits 90, usually the plant goes into a dormancy type period where it cannot and will not produce fruit anymore, which is why in the north, we are pushing our plants to get all the fruit set before those really high temperatures in late July. Because if we can get our plants to have the fruit on, they will ripen. The tomatoes will continue to grow. And anytime a tomato doesn't ripen, there's a blessed trick. Pull the green tomato off, bring it in the house a couple days, it'll just turn red. That's the amazing thing with peppers will do the same as well. I sometimes have to pull off the green peppers and I'll put them in like a cooler situation and they continue to ripen. Not always. I haven't had every variety of pepper do that. And they most won't. It's better to let your peppers ripen on the vine. But for tomatoes, make sure that temperature, you want to get them going. You want to get the fruit on before it's 90 degrees. That's why we're thinking like 6 to 8 weeks before we transplant. Now, the temperatures have to be above freezing for tomatoes. Tomatoes are one of your latest crops you put out. Peppers, tomatoes are very, very sensitive to cold. So you Southerners, you can get going on that. You whatever I call it, the middle the latitude, mid-lat states, you may want to wait until February 1st. I would. Because again, I've had horrible experiences when the plant is too big and then you put it outside and it was just too big. So personally, I would wait till the end of January-ish or beginning of February, but we know people push the envelope and that's fine as long as you can sustain it. Make sure it's planted when it's not too big. You want your plant usually about 8 to 10, maybe 12 inches tall when you transplant your tomatoes, and you do have to make sure they're protected, staked, and on the day you will transplant your tomatoes outside, you will have wanted to harden them off, meaning for like 2 weeks, take them out during the day, bring them in at night, bring them out during the day so they're starting to get the wind, they're starting to feel the temperature variations, they're starting to feel like they're normal plants, not just potted, protected little babies. But you will want to make sure on the day you plant them outside, you have shade and no wind. And if you do not have cloud cover on that day, you risk losing all your tomatoes. So what I try to do, and it's not always fun, but I plant at evening when I know it's not going to freeze. I go outside and I plant my tomatoes right before sunset because what happens at night? I don't have the sun on them. And what does sun do to plants? It scorches them. And typically at night, at least here in Wyoming, we get very calm weather. I also extra protect them. So I make sure to set up little barriers. My husband being a contractor, well, we just moved, but when he did have scrap lumber everywhere, I would put lumber, like 2x8s and 2x10s, or just whatever I could find for that was windward side, so that when the wind blew, it would be blocked by the wood. And one of the best things I found to do when the plants got taller, because for the last couple years the wind has increased, I take pallets, those wood pallets you can get for free at all the businesses around you, and 2 T-posts per pallet. So on the windward side of my plant, I put let's say this is my little plant. Let me take this blur off. Well, can I take the blur off? Yeah, there. If I say, okay, so this is the little plant. Actually, this is my plant, okay? And then this is my little wind block. I make sure the wind block blocks the wind from the plant so that this is ricketing, but this will be solid. It's like a wind block. Does that make sense? So if my wind is coming from this direction, I put my block here and then I put my plant here. My whole garden used to just be, you would look down at it, you'd see beautiful plants and pallets everywhere because I had acres, like I had a huge garden. So I'd have like sometimes, well, 65 to 300 tomato plants, depending on the year. And so then I needed to protect them, and pallets can do more. And what I would do is stagger them. Oh my goodness, I don't know if I can get this. Let me see if I can even position this. So do you see how my hands are kind of like parallel to each other? I would stagger them just a few inches off so that I would make a constant windbreak for my plants. And I could get more row. I would do 2 rows. So I would use one pallet line to do 2 rows of crops because typically the wind would be pushed over the pallets. I don't know what just came up on my screen. Sorry. So these tomatoes, the reason I'm focusing on them is because that's what everybody wants from the garden. Tomatoes are a great thing to grow from the garden because of a number of reasons. Vitamin C, they give you seeds, a ton of seeds that you can save as long as they are open pollinated heirloom varieties. We'll talk about that again. You cannot do F1 tomatoes. Please don't do the F1 varieties. You want to be able to have tomatoes that you can save their seed. They're self-pollinating. And for every plant of tomatoes, sometimes I'll get 100 pounds 60 to 100 pounds of tomatoes. That's a lot of tomatoes. What can I do with tomatoes? I can them, dehydrate them. So they add flavor to pasta. Let's say we're in the middle of the tribulation. I've got tomatoes, I've got rice, I've got beans. Put a little salt on there. We got some vitamin C with our starch, with our protein, with our fiber. And so I used to can at least 300 jars of tomatoes per year. In easy, oh my goodness, I could just keep going on tangents. Tomatoes are super easy to can. You can literally just puree them, put some lemon juice in your jar and hot water bath them. I don't do even bother steam canning or hot, I don't do pressure canning with tomatoes. You don't need to. Pressure canning is the most dangerous canning you can do. So anytime you can hot water bath is what you want to do. You just have to keep the acidity levels high. So make sure from Azure Standard right now, while you're buying your seeds, also get your tomato juice, cans, and canning lids, okay? So you're just thinking ahead because pretty soon, once summer hits and everybody's buying these things, you don't have them anymore. So tomatoes, we want to start again, like I was saying, for the southern people now, the mid-lats will want to start at about the end of January, mid to mid-February to even the end of, well, you could get due with whatever. You could do even the end of February, you'd still make it. But I would start a little earlier. And then for us northerners who are blessed with 2 days of growing season and then we're back to winter, we have to start them March 1st to March 15th. So tomatoes and peppers. Now peppers you can start a little earlier because peppers are a slow grower. So if you start your tomatoes 1 week, you can start your tomatoes 2 to 4 weeks earlier, okay? So your peppers can be started 2 to 4 weeks earlier. If you're in regions like Sanin and Yesenia and some of you in the South, like Stephanie is going to have a hard time too in Phoenix area. She's going to have to really watch for those hot temperatures and keep the misters on or just keep them under shade cloth. But Haley has the Texas. Texas is not easy. I help my sister a lot with her garden, trying to walk her through how to do it. And we've had to, it can be challenging. And she does, because she just started gardening. So then I'll be like, ooh, they got too hot. You got to keep them cool. So then she'll buy shade cloth and whatnot. And that has helped, the shade cloth. But there's still a time in Texas where it's all done with that. Like you can't, you're done. It's too hot. So peppers can be started now also for the South. Now, between now and 2 weeks for the mid, and then up north, we would want to start our peppers again, either mid-February to early March. If you like, well, pause again. Why peppers? Peppers are another high source of vitamin C. They prevent scurvy. The reason I'm hitting on vitamin C is because we know that sailors who didn't have that in their diet died. So vitamin C doesn't just come from an orange. It like look at the other foods that have this vitamin, right? Just this nutrient that our body needs. So peppers are fantastic. I grow ancho peppers and poblano peppers for high yields. People in the South, you can grow bell peppers, but we get very low yields up north with bell peppers. If you grow peppers up north, listen, here's your variety, King of the North. King of the North works fantastic in the north. You Southerners, that's the one thing Stephanie has a benefit on. Peppers like it hot and dry. You just feed their roots with water. Man, you're going to flourish. Any pepper. You can do so many different varieties of peppers. I have found that my family likes anchos. Ooh, pepperoncinis are also amazing. And the poblanos. They're not too hot, not without heat. They're just like this beautiful blend of balance of flavors. You want to do the bahuja? Not the bahuja. You want to do those, whatever they are, bahujalakia. I don't know what are those one peppers that'll kill you? You know what I'm talking about, the ghost peppers. You want to do the really hot ones, you can. Ooh, and I also almost do every year jalapenos. Pause with your little notebook here. When we do tomatoes, I like to do them 45 feet apart in the garden, different varieties. Okay? So if I have like my Stupice, which is one of my favorite varieties of tomatoes because they're like a 55 to 65 day tomato, up north we need every help we can get. The Stupice variety, one corner. I'll do my Glacier tomatoes in another corner. I'll do my Roma tomatoes in another corner. and I'll do my German beefsteak or my German Giants, German Johnson Giants ones in another corner. And then if I want another variety, I plant other crops in between just to prevent any cross-pollination. I will tell you, tomatoes are self-pollinating. You have very little danger of cross-pollination. You can just go out and shake your tomato plants when you see gently. Some of you make sure gently because they will self-pollinate. So even in the greenhouse, when I have my plants in the greenhouse, I will grow tomatoes year round in the greenhouse just by shaking the tomatoes. They just pollinate themselves. But every once in a while you get an ant that could cross-pollinate, so be careful with that. Peppers are also self-pollinating, again, within your greenhouse or in your own little tub structures. If you, these are good plants for your pots on your like if you have a apartment or you live in an area where you can't have a in-ground garden, put the tomatoes in pots, put your peppers in pots. Those really work really well. They're self-pollinating. Just kind of give them a little shake. If they don't have any wind on them, they will produce that fruit without help of another pollinator. Does that make sense? You don't need an animal to pollinate it. You don't need another variety of plant beside it to pollinate it. This is important to remember. But those crops need to be started like now. Both of those are very good. You can freeze them. You can just pull your peppers off, wash them, throw them in a bag, and freeze them, and they cook up beautifully in any dish you have. You don't even have to process them in any way. No blanching, no anything to prepare them. You can can them. You can like pickle them. We like pickled jalapenos. You can also dehydrate them. I hate dehydrated food, but some of you love it. So whatever if you want to do it. It just gets tough and chewy. Um, Tomatoes, the same thing. Do you know that you can wash your tomatoes up? Throw if you get really overwhelmed. One year I had like 2,400 pounds of tomatoes, and I'm not exaggerating. I had actually over that, but I got so overwhelmed with tomatoes, I started throwing them in baggies, washed. And then what I would do was when I wanted to make dinner, I'd put it on the counter in the morning, and at night I would just blend that in a pureer and make a beautiful sauce for either a soup or spaghetti sauce that way, and everybody loves it. It's you can take out the skins if you want, but I don't even worry about it. I use the skin and everything in my sauces, and people love it. It doesn't make it bitter. But I do also can tomatoes, and I do either that where I blend it all together so I can make sauces. I just put it in the food processor with a little bit of lemon juice, whoop, throw it in the jars and can it. I also dice it, and then some of you like to sun dry your tomatoes or dehydrate your tomatoes. And you can make ketchup, you can make sauces, you can make salsa. You can do whatever you want. Tomatoes are amazing. They're a great base. High inflammatory food though, so for certain people it will trigger your autoimmune disorders. It can also trigger joint swelling. So you got to sometimes watch all these things from the nightshade family. So blessings and curse, right? Um, Other vegetables to begin starting now, not now, in the South now. Cabbage, eggplant, onions, fennel, your herbs. So any of those things you can do. We'll go through a site and I'll kind of show you some more plants. When we, again, now let's switch over to the cool weather crops. Cool weather crops can be directly sown in the ground, but we have found people in America to be impatient, so often people spend the money, waste the money to start them inside first. It's not necessarily a waste of money, but for me, it's always been, I'm just going to be patient. I'll get it when it gets there. But as you have to test your soil temps, and you need to go through here. Let me just see if I can even pull it up. Soil temp needs for seeds. Okay, let me see if we can find a chart here. Here we go. So Garden Betty. I'm trying to find a chart to show you guys. Okay, here we go. Can you guys see this? Did it switch over to the chart for you, or do I need to switch screens? Oh, you saw it? Okay, good. So notice here. So the minimum temperature for my soil for amaranth, which is a grain, is 50 degrees, okay? But it prefers it to be 68 to 75 degrees. Now, you need to also, well, should I just be smart and just send this to the group right now in the chat? Probably. So if I send this in the chat, here you go. There are soil thermometers that are really long, like 18 inches long. And you want to make sure you're testing your soil temperature before you directly sow any of these seeds. Okay? because otherwise they will die and you will just have wasted all that money. So this is preparation. Do you see how much work there goes into just planting a garden? You can't just go get some seeds, throw it out there and like, boom, it's going to grow. Some things will grow. Go ahead, Yesenia.
Does it matter what time of the day you test the soil, whether it be night or day?
I like to test it in the morning when it's the coldest because I would rather always give myself the worst information to work with, because once you have that sun come on, all of a sudden we have radiant heat going into the soil, and specifically on the top level, it's absorbing it and creating, and it's just creating heat. So it's generate, right? It's going to be warmer. That's why I think the probe on those soil things are so long, because if you go down in the soil. Here are some tricks to increase the heat of your soil. You can get black plastic, because what does black do? It absorbs heat. So you can lay black plastic over your entire garden area to get your soil temperatures up earlier. Raised beds have higher soil temperatures because the thermal mass is not there. The thermal mass is more solid, closer to the earth. So if you raise up the soil, it's looser. The air can go through the particulates of the soil. You get warmer temperatures. So raised beds, but at the same point, now when you raised up the beds, you've got to add more nutrients to it. It's easier on the ground. So there's work with either side. Straw bales. If you can take straw bales and water them down daily, keep them in the bale form, put them on top of where you're going to be growing your food, and put water into that, that creates a decomposition where we begin to heat up. So this is why straw bales will catch on fire. Any moisture in hay generates a heat process within the bale. And you always hear about well, you probably don't, but we always hear about barn fires. And we were very careful to stack our hay and to stack it dry and to keep it covered, because once you get a hay bale and it starts decomposing and it has high moisture levels, it can go up in flames just like that. It'll just combust. And so not combust, it'll incinerate, it'll start on fire. So that's something to be aware of, but you can do any of those types of things. The other thing to do is in the fall, you can either put the manure on it from clean farms, people who don't feed their animals bad stuff. Put brown manure, brown waste, leaves. You can put that on top of your garden spot, let it decompose over the winter, and then till it in. That tilling process also starts working it up. At the same point, you still need to really be watching the temperatures, because that manure will become decomposing and it does increase the temperature, but it can get too hot too. You can kill your plants if you have really nitrogen rich poop from like chickens and whatnot. Horse poop is always the best. It has just like the perfect balance for whatever reason. Cow poop has a lot of seeds and grass. Chicken poop is amazing, but it can be really high heat, really a lot of nitrogen, I should say. So it's not actually the temperature. It's a different kind of heat, but those are some things to get your ground up to these soil temps. I put the link over here, but just so you remember, you can just type in gardenbetty.com soil temperatures. You can just type in soil temperature needs. While we have a very concise and consolidated list of vegetables up here, I will say amaranth, not the most popular thing to grow for a reason. Artichokes, whatever. Dried beans, not always so easy to grow. You have to have a very long growing season. They have to dry completely to harvest them. That's why in the north they started cheating with Roundup, and they started to spray the entire fields of wheat and lima beans and all those beans with just glyphosate to make sure the plant would die. They get the beans out. It's gross, disgusting. Beets. This plant right here. This is a cold weather crop. You also need to study the species and genuses, but I'm not going to go through that today. Seed to Seed by Susan Ashworth is a book you should all get if you want to actually start saving your seeds. Same point, I think Yeshua's coming back in a couple years, like maybe just wait for him. I don't know. Do what you want. Do what you got time to do now, right? So we got beets right here. And the beets are a Beta vulgaris family. If you do live in places where they will overwinter and you will have biennial plants where you will have to save the seed the second year, such as Phoenix or Texas or California, you will not want to plant them directly beside chard. Swiss chard or the chard family is also Beta vulgaris and they will cross-pollinate. So give yourself a space between these species, okay? So beets, here's what I love about beets. I can harvest beets all the way up here in Wyoming, all the way into January and December. You guys could go probably year round, except for it might get too hot. But here's the beautiful thing with the beet. Huge nutrient dense bulb of food. Some men hate it. I understand that, the flavor, but I love it. The greens, as soon as those beet tops start growing, you eat them for salad. You cut them and don't cut them all the way down to the bottom and you let them keep growing. You cut them. This also helps you when the seasons are hot. You prevent any bolting action. So you continue to water your plant, water your beets, but keep taking the tops. If it starts getting hot, you may want to cool down the soil around them. But in Wyoming, it doesn't get too hot for beets. So you can plant 2 crops of beets in Wyoming. You can plant probably 3 crops to 4 crops of beets and rotational crop. You can do where you start one and then like 2 weeks later start another patch of beets and 2 weeks later start another patch of beets. Like leave out the summer heat time, start again in late summer to early fall. Man, you can get a lot of crops of that. Did you have questions, Cindy? You can go ahead.
No, I was just thinking about, but you probably already answered it. It was regarding like cooling things down when it's too hot because you went over the heat, but that was
So,
mainly toward this for the soil. But
so you
then
want to
like
do it
if
shade
the beet
cloths,
shade cloth, okay. Yeah.
shade cloth, or when it's really hot, I used to spend sometimes 9 to 16 hours a day irrigating. No joke, because we had such a big farm. But when it's really, really hot,
Uh-huh.
you will need to sometimes water twice a day because if you can get water on a plant, it will keep it cool.
Okay.
Here's the thing, don't put your sprinkler out because where is your plant? That water on, so think about us. If we put
Can only
like
go on the top.
if we put baby oil on, we burn faster. If you put that water sometimes on top of the plant, certain times that will cause the plant to scorch in the sun. But let me give you a trick. If it's going to freeze that night, go turn your sprinkler on. You let that water run all night long on those plants and you won't freeze. You won't lose your crops. Because that's what farmers will do around here. They have sprinklers putting water on top of the leaves. And so as it freezes, but more fresh water is coming on top of it, it breaks the ice crystals and doesn't allow it to actually ruin the plant. So if you're ever going to risk a freezing and you don't have plastic to put over it, that's something you can do. But beets, you typically avoid the high heat times because they will start bolting. You want these because they're biennial plants. You truly want them to produce the seed the second year for the best plants. Broccoli, I don't waste my time on it. You can if you want, but you're not going to get a big crop. I'm talking about survival here. I'm talking about people who want to grow food that is going to be harvestable, give you nutrient density. You're going to get a big bang for your buck. With your beets, you're always getting the green tops for your salads. You're getting the beets for the bottom. You can extend that season by putting straw bales on them. You can put protective row covers on. You can put plastic over the top. Every row of plastic you give with an air gap gives you one zone south. One more zone south. So if you make a tunnel and you put this little tunnel frame over your crops with like rebar, I take 2 pieces of rebar and that white plastic from Home Depot. So I made myself a little tunnel. I pull plastic over it when it's going to freeze at night. I open it in the morning so nothing scorches and dies. I give myself about a foot out, six inches to a foot beyond this rebar. I go one more layer out and I gave myself another air gap. Those who understand physics and thermodynamics will understand what I'm talking about. That air gap traps heat. That gives me one more zone south. So if I'm in the north and I'm growing this food here at night, I cover it with one layer of plastic. I extend it to one more layer of plastic. I gave myself about 8 degrees more protection. So it's not like the miracle worker thing, but with very simple resources and tools, you can extend it. Another way to extend the season are cold frames. So get some old windows from a construction company that's throwing them away, saves them the dump fees. What I did is I put them at a slant. It was like, and oh, I am definitely not the carpenter in the family. I built all the cold frames and I made sure people did not know. I made sure they knew it wasn't my husband who did the building because I suck. But anyway, I tried and they were all like this. And I had like, it was like 2 foot long by like by 18 inches wide. I had the back of my cold frames higher than the front so that it slanted down. And then what I would do is I fixed windows at the top, and in the day I would open them, and in the night I would close them. This is for above freezing temperatures, but when it could get near freezing. Glass isn't a super good protector, but it does protect. And so I made sure that I was protecting them from the wind. This is a good way also when you're transplanting plants, if you want to make a few cold frames, it protects again from the wind, right? Your tomatoes, and you're trying to make this little structure. You can prop it open in the day. You can make little structures. Those people are really creative, and you can prop it open. Pause for 1 minute while I get you the best book in the world for this garden method. Let me show you. Okay, this guy right here has a number of books. For those of us up north, it's called, his name is Eliot, Eliot Coleman, Coleman. This book is the absolute, these two books I have, well, I don't know, do I have three or two? Four Season Harvest. This man lived in Vermont, very, very cold temperatures. He gives you all sorts of season extending resources and ways to do it without electricity. He really, this resource tells you this is for survival. He did so many hands-on experiences up north of how to do it the way they used to do it in like France, in Europe, in civilizations where they didn't have electricity. These books are fantastic. He shows you greenhouse structures. He shows you all sorts of charts in here. He gives you ideas how to build your own. And I did use his book to help me plan my cold frames. So interesting. He also talks about, for those of you in apartments or those of you with small spaces, I'm going to quickly, because I saw it, think vertical gardening. Vertical gardening. You can train your cucumbers to go up on T-posts or cheap. Go through the forest and grab sticks. If you're dead broke, you can still do this. You don't have to be, it doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be beautiful. Find old sheets and t-shirts. Rip them apart from the thrift store to tie gently the plant to the stick that you got from the ground. You can get from the Catholic thrift store around here 10-cent shirts and sheets. Rip them. I used to do that all the time because I had a big farm. I can't afford all that stuff, right? So where there's a will, there's a way. And so think up. And to make those little ties, if you don't have anything special, if you don't have the right named thing, just get a little t-shirt, make a little strip of it, tie it to the post loosely, because remember, that cellulose structure is growing. Okay, so that plant is going to continue growing past that point you tied it. If you tie it too tight, it'll break. So you need to leave growth movement, right? So that it can keep growing up. Are we tracking? This is a lot of information, huh? This might have to be a couple weeks because we're already 48 minutes into this. So I want you guys later to go through this chart, but I do want to point out a few things. I'm going to tell you my own experience. I'm not God. If you want to grow broccoli, please do so. This is not anything wrong with growing broccoli. I'm saying what I have learned for the bang for my buck. Brussels sprouts. Yes, but I would rather do cabbage. Since they're related, you can't grow both beside each other. Brussels sprouts and cabbage are the brassica family. They will cross-pollinate, and unless you have space to grow both, don't do so because they will, in the second year, they're biennials, they will cross-pollinate. Carrots, give or take, hit or miss. They grow really easily, but they're very temperamental to get started for some people. I typically have really high success, but you have to make sure your ground is compact. Not too tight though. And then you got to put the carrots on, not too deep. And then every bird in the world will come and try to eat it. And then one of the best ways I found with carrots to start them, put a piece of board on top, keep it wet. Do not let carrots dry out or they will never grow. So you put that board right on top until you first see the sprouts, then go ahead and take the board away. But you keep that sucker wet. Celery, yes, 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 yes. I grow celery all year and I don't pull it up ever. I get like 16,000 cuttings from a bunch of celery. You know why? Because I just cut down, let it grow, cut down, let it grow, cut down, let it grow. And I grow huge rows of celery. Celery needs to be kept cool. And I often try to keep it in pallets. Like you can even, like, because it does like it a little cooler. It likes the hot, but not really. It pretends to like the hot. So pallets give it shade. I put the pallets right around it if I need. I can season extend celery quite a ways into like November with plastic. Chard, yes, 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 yes. I can't say enough. I would have chard any day over beets because the nutrients in it, the flavor of it, you can saute chard, you can wrap rice in chard and steam it. You can do any, like chard grows easy and it's really tall. And often when I was in the garden and starving and I had to pick lunch, I'd pick a chard, I'd eat a whole bunch of chard, and then I'd eat a whole bunch of zucchinis. You can eat zucchinis raw, by the way. I would just find the most tender zucchini and I would just shovel with tomatoes. I'd make my own salad. Right? Claytonia. Actually, that's pretty good for up north. Claytonia is a good lettuce and it sometimes will come back year after year. Not a bad option. Collards, no. Corn, no. It's not worth your bang for your buck unless I used to grow fields of corn. You can, if you grow the certain varieties, you can wait for it to dry and then grind it. Eh. Honestly, right now for the time and the time we're in, I would buy bags of organic corn if you want plan on doing that or cornmeal from Azure Standard. Bang for the buck there. Not that much nutrient, it just makes fat. I didn't say that, did I? Yes, I did. But okay. Cucumbers. Yes, yes, yes. Your varieties depend on what you like, but I love the Suyo long cucumbers. They're extremely prolific. Slicers, 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 burpless. And you can eat those puppies. And so if you're starving, Suyo long cucumbers. But for pickling, I like Boston pickling or National pickling cucumbers. There are also some of the Beit Alpha from Israel, so I buy those just because they're from Israel. Um, and they're little tiny cucumbers. You want to can those high hot oh my goodness, I am so tired today. Hot water bath canning with those. You have to make sure you have vinegar. Usually it's equal parts water vinegar, but you can get away with 1 part vinegar to 2 parts water with the extra seasonings if you refrigerate them. If you do non-canning them but you just make refrigerator pickles, amazing. You can also ferment cucumbers in crocks, put them in the basement. Excellent. Edamame, I don't really grow a lot of dried
Hey
beets.
Mel, can you repeat the names of those varieties again?
Yes, I didn't go faster. And remember, I'll record, this is recorded so we can do it. But so for my cucumbers, I like Suyo long, Suyo long cucumbers. And then for the pickling ones, I like National pickling cucumber, Boston pickling cucumber, or the Bates Alpha. All of these varieties that I grow are open pollinated, meaning they will grow true to type and you can save their seeds. I don't grow any F1 varieties. So, edamame, no. Endive, no. Eggplant, I like it. And then I'm the only one eating it. Therefore, I think most families are like that, but it's one to start now, start kind of early. Fennel, I love it. It makes fantastic soups. Men don't usually like it. Garlic, yeah. Now, most garlic you plant in the fall for a spring harvest. In my experiences, I've been able to get garlic just to grow from spring to fall. Kohlrabi, oh, I'm sorry, kale. Yes, 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 yes. Even if you hate kale, if you're starving, you'll start liking it. And kale is hardy. When it starts to get hot, though, make sure you take all your kale back and cut it to about like 5-inch lengths. And then, because then all the tender leaves will come back. So anytime your kale starts to get bitter and crunchy and like you feel like you're gonna die because you can't swallow it because it's so hard and horrible. And so what you do, cut it down like just to a couple inches, water the crap out of it. Like just water it heavy, 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 and let it start growing and then start harvesting it tender. Tender as lettuce. Love it. I like the dinosaur kale. You can use, I do all sorts of varieties of kale. I like kale. Leeks. I love leeks. Bang for your buck. I think it's a great option. They do take a long time to grow. People in the South are going to have better success. Lettuce. Yes, 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 yes. People in the South, you don't have as much success with this as us because you get too hot. Lettuce likes it cool. If you guys do get too hot, make sure you just have it in a little lettuce bed or like a little tray. Bring it in your house. Black seeded lettuce is black seeded Simpson is my favorite. You want to know why? I can get 2 to 3 harvests a year. It self sows. I don't even have to worry about it. My lettuce comes up. I let a few stalks go to seed as I cut down the cool ones and I use them. I wait a few weeks. These seeds that I let go to seed will go right back into the ground. They spread all around. I get a whole nother bunch of lettuce, and I usually do it 3 times per season, up north even. And if you plant your lettuce right beside really tall crops, make sure your lettuce is on the cool side in the shade. You gave yourself some shade from the heat, so it helps lettuce because once lettuce feels the heat, it bolts. The mache corn salad, no. Musk melons, we can't do it up north. You guys down south, you have fun. We can do Montana melons, that we can do very few melons up north very easily. It's not even worth your time, guys. When you're trying to save resources and abilities, I'm just gonna say no, eat the tomato for the fruit. Pretend the tomato's a fruit, put it in your head, and that's it. Go. Mustard, I do like mustard. It's spicy, and I like that spicy lettuce flavor. It's just another, I would never say no to any green. If you're going to want to grow any green, do it. Like greens, any kind of green you want to grow, do it. Parsley, yes. I love parsley. It just gives a little bit of flavor to food. It's very easy to grow, very easy to keep growing. Parsnips, I don't like them at all, but they're a root crop. They have a lot of nutrients, a lot of density. They grow pretty well, pretty easy. It's a cool weather crop. They are hardy through the cold. You can extend the season. Go for it if you want. Peas, absolutely not. Even though they taste amazing, they suck because you have to grow thousands of acres to get one little bag of peas. And so it's like not even worth your time. Peppers, I already talked about that. Pumpkins, yes, yes, yes. My favorite, Rouge Vif de Tempe. Here's why. Here's what I have in my garden because I save seeds. I don't want them to cross pollinate. I have zucchini. I can do green zucchini or yellow squash. I can't do both because they will cross pollinate. So I choose one variety per year. My husband's happy when it's the yellow year, but with the years that it's green, I'm happy. Then that's a cucurbita pepo. I then grow butternut squash. That's a cucurbita machata. And then I grow Rouge Vif de Tempe, which are Cucurbita maxima. Did you hear the maxima? Pepo moschata. What you have to do when you're planting your squash is make sure you don't plant 2 pepos, 2 moschata, or 2 maximas because they'll cross-pollinate and you'll get a monster crop the next year of something weird that doesn't grow true to type and you can't eat it. Very important that you do not grow spaghetti squash near zucchini. Very important that you do not grow green squash by yellow squash. That is the hybridization that the Bible talks about because it creates really monstrous plants that don't work. So get a friend if you really like it. Say, I can't grow that spaghetti. Will you grow? So I had multiple gardens. I had fields with garden down here, and then I had a whole nother back to Eden garden I could grow in. I don't have that here. I have to be selective here. But pumpkins, the amazing thing about pumpkins, they just store right in your root cellar. They last up until February. I usually have my pumpkins and my squash last until February or 2 years. I've had them go all the way up to 2 years. I have been able to hold my Waltham butternut squash for 2 years in the root cellar and still eat it. They're amazing. These are things settlers knew. Radicchio, I like it, but no, I'm not going to waste time on it. Radishes, yes, 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 and yes again. 15 days, 25 days, you got to harvest the radishes. You can eat the tops. They're spicy. They give flavor. So think about it. When we're starving in the tribulation or we're down to our little grain and no meat ever, these are some things to think about because you got to have a green. You got to get your guts in this. And radishes make the best pickles. If you don't have cucumbers, I would prefer radish pickles 1,000 days over anything else. I just made them for my daughter-in-law's shower recently. You take radishes and vegetables and you put it with the vinegar water ratio. And we did it for the banh mi sandwiches. I made her the chicken banh mi. I'll take a radish pickle any day. And my husband thought they were going to be gross years ago when I started doing it. And he's like, they're better than pickles. They're better than cucumber pickles. So I thin slice them like razor thin. I take that mandolin and I slice them. 1 part vinegar, has to be organic rice wine vinegar, the Marucan kind from Azure Standard. I do not like the apple cider vinegar with it. It sucks. So it has to be the white rice vinegar. And you can make your own vinegar, by the way. Research that out. You can take just white rice and do it. But those are great sources of, oh man, they just grow so fast. They're a biennial though, so make sure because they need 2 years to seed. Spinach,
Sorry,
some people have great success. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, what was the ratio again for the radishes?
1 part vinegar, 2 parts water.
Okay.
And then I sometimes finish off with a little bit of liquid aminos. I do plenty of salt. Don't oversalt it, but I do use the sea salt, or you can use kosher salt. You can do peppercorn, you can do caraway seeds. I'm kind of the person who likes caraway in everything. I didn't for my daughter-in-law because I wasn't sure if she would like it the other day with the banh mi. I like caraway in everything. I'm definitely Jewish. But you give me those caraway seeds and ooh, love it. Spinach, some people have great success. Some people don't. Raised beds, keep it cool. For my bang for my buck, I'm going for other things. Squash, we just talked about that because squash, pumpkins, machada, acorn squash, fantastic. Just make sure they won't cross-pollinate because you're going to get yourself in trouble. You're going to get into the tribulation thinking you're like growing squash, and then all of a sudden you made monster things you can't save the seed of, and you're not growing an acorn squash the next year, and then you can't grow it again because it made something weird. Tomatillos, 1,000% yes. You can throw tomatillos. They grow so well. They're so prolific. You start the tomatillos the same time you start tomatoes, okay? I love the green verde tomatillos. Oh my goodness. Throw them in chilies. I used to make verde sauce and just in chili. People would be so surprised the flavor brightness it brings to it. But don't eat it raw.
Don't genetically modify that. I checked that out to see like if I had to worry about that, and they don't mess with that, or at least not yet. So that's a
Right. That's awesome. Most of them, a lot of vegetables, they don't, but some of them they do. Turnips, yes, but no. My family, I would take turnips with potatoes. I would rather go a potato than a turnip or a parsnip because your potatoes, I grow my potatoes, I hold them in the root cellar, grow from that same batch of the following year. I just do potatoes. But turnips they're good-ish. And then if you throw them in with your potatoes and make mashed, we leave skin on mashed potatoes. We're kind of like the whole thing family. We like skin on everything. So you take skin on potatoes with turnips and put that all together with some butter, salt. It's really good. Watermelon, not for us up north. It just doesn't work. You got to be in the Rocky Ford region. You got to be in Colorado down south. Go Colorado on down south. We don't do well up here with the melons. You can, and I've grown some, but I'm just saying. We ran out of time, but let me give you, this is your homework, and maybe we'll try to meet next week as well. I have to go to a photo session, so I can't go extended today. This is a lot of information, but now you kind of know what a baseline thing of what we're looking for, that we got to get seeds started. We got to get our seeds ordered. The companies that you want to go from, actually, let me quickly show you some companies to go from or to go look at. Let's look at this so let's go over here. So, oops, rareseeds.com is the absolute best. Every single seed in here is open pollinated, non-GMO, heirloom. Nothing is cross-pollinated. You get pure seeds here. These people are Seventh-day Adventists. They keep the Sabbath, so I like that about them. They don't know a lot of stuff, but they do know that. It's amazing. So you go to these seeds and you want to start ordering your seeds now. This is why we just went through that I thought I would go through that whole list with you when I pulled that up with the seed things, because you can kind of see, what do I want to grow? Yes or no? Because you can get overwhelmed and you can start dreaming, and then all of a sudden you're not going to be growing practical things. If you have time, do the superfluous, but no. So you go over here to the seeds and they have them all you can even do those beautiful flowers, bean seeds. Yes, definitely green beans. Green beans are one of the highest nutrient dense foods. They are self-pollinating. They're compact. They continue producing. Ooh, we didn't even talk about that with tomatoes. Tomatoes have determinate or indeterminate. It's up to you. I typically get indeterminate tomatoes. Well, I get both. So determinate means they're going to flower once, produce once, and be done. Indeterminate tomatoes means you're going to continually have a harvest of tomatoes over a season of time. You don't have to like can everything at once because you're like, I got 10,000 pounds of tomatoes right now. Can them now. Yeah, that's why the freezer bag trick comes in handy. So anyway, you can go through here. This is my absolute favorite #1 company. High Mowing Seeds is another one. This one does have F1 varieties. Be careful. They have a lot of open pollinated ones, but they do have F1 varieties. Josie and young children, if this is something you want to do, you can contact them to do a fundraiser. My son used to sell their seeds to make money. So you have to buy a certain amount of seeds, like discounted price, and then you can sell them. I actually had a wholesale account with this company, and at my store, I sold their seeds, the open pollinated varieties. I like their seeds. The product has been really good. And then we go to our beautiful, beloved Azure Standard. Some of their, well, I'm going to show you something you can do from Azure Standard. Shop, outdoor and garden, and you go over here to garden seeds. See, now you can get garden seeds. And then you can get garden plant starts. They don't have any yet. I'm going to tell you, the last 2 years, they have sucked. Since 07 to 2 years ago, they were perfect. Ellie's seeds were perfect. Somebody else took it over and has been doing a terrible job, but I have a feeling they got enough feedback that it's going to push them to do better. Because they used to have amazing plant starts, but the last 2 years, they've been absolutely terrible. So if you can't start your seeds, plan on ordering the starts from Azure. Plan accordingly, because Azure starts them, and then when they're going to get there, you have to think when I get my Azure order, I don't want them to grow too many days. I don't want them to be in my house too many days. I don't want to have to put them under grow lights. I got to put them, when do I put them outside? When do I order? You have to consider all these things. But they do have the seeds. Oh my goodness, outdoor and garden seeds. And their seeds have always been done really well for me, the viability right here. Oh, I just did the wrong button again. My goodness. I meant to click seeds, but I want to show you really fast. Yep, so they have all these different seeds you can do. And you can get bigger packs, smaller packs, whatnot. These are my 3 favorite companies that I typically go to. When you're at the grocery store, at the restaurant, or the whatever, checking out at Walmart, there are seed companies there's seeds there as well. Seeds of Change and all those things that they do. Plenty of nice ones. When you do buy your seeds, you need to make sure they're not F1 and that they don't have any possibility of genetic modification in them. Typically they don't, but sometimes they could, especially the zucchini market. I know that was a lot of information, but what you should do by next week, plot out your garden. Just research what plants are out there, what seeds are out there, and what you want to grow. That's step 1, because what you got to do, we're creating a funnel, right? We've got to funnel down from everything, a possibility. We've got to funnel down all this information of the zones, the temperature, the climates. When do I start things? What do I even want to grow? That's our big open-ended up here-ness. Now we're trying to funnel it down to our garden. So your first step, your homework this week should be finding the seeds that you want to grow. And I think next week, let me see what I have next week. Okay, so next week, if we meet on Tuesday, maybe we'll just squeeze another one of these in because I think this is important for some of you guys. Next week, what then we want to do is let's fine tune specifics again. Let's write down very specific information about when to start it, how early, how long before we transplant it outside, blah, 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 blah. And when you're considering seeds, it will tell you, some tomatoes will say 85 days to harvest. They mean from transplant, not from when you start the seeds, okay? So every single seed package, when you are buying them and saying, oh, this will only take me, so I'll start the seeds 2 weeks prior to transplanting, and it said 85 days, that means I already took off 14 days of the time. No, it didn't. That date on the package of the harvestable date is from transplant. And if you don't have space in your home to start these seeds, this is where you're going to have to start this next week. I want you to really think about, do I want to buy plant starts or do I want to start my seeds? If I want to start my seeds, then I have to have a rack that goes in the window that probably is supplemented with greenhouse lights or grow lights. And how cost, what do I do? These are the things for you to start thinking of in this gardening context. Then we start thinking about, we can start talking about soil amendments, what you need to put into your garden. We talked briefly on how to bring your soil temperatures up, how to get them up to speed, up to par. I showed you a little bit about garden zones. We're just scratching the surface with the world of gardening, honestly. I will tell you this though, if you're a gardener, you almost never see a fat gardener. It's because first of all, they're already working in the garden. And then second of all, they're eating the things from the garden. And if you let your children be involved with you, they love to eat what they grow. They may hate vegetables until they grow it. So really be thinking to yourself about those types of things. If you have questions, you can message me. I'm a little slow on questions right now because the questions lists keep getting longer. But the messages, I'm getting a little lost. Anyway, any quick questions before I know I went over. Any quick questions before we go?
How do you identify an F1 seed? Like does the
It should say on there.
It
And
would
if you
say?
don't know, and if it doesn't say,
Okay.
then you either research it because F1 varieties,
Okay,
so
like this-
which means
this
it's a
brand?
cross-pollinated. What is that brand? I mean, that's a Black Beauty, that's open pollinated. See, I just by heart usually know if it's open pollinated or if it's an F1 variety,
Okay.
but you can just Google it. Are Black Beauty zucchini seeds F1 or open pollinated? Open pollinated means again, like the same species, Black Beauty, Black Beauty. So when you plant the Black Beauty, you're going to have a Black Beauty come out, zucchini. And I like Black Beauty zucchini. My favorite are green zucchini, though. I like those a little better. And I love the Nimba zucchini, and I like the yellow squash. So can't go wrong with that. And you maybe have to be creative, you guys. Think the one quick thing I know. So around the perimeter of your house, if you have a front of a house and a back of a house, maybe you use the house as the protective barrier so you can grow yellow squash up front, green squash back front, back out back. I did that constantly. I was like, ooh, I want this variety. I want to sell this at the market this year. So where can I find it? Where can I plant it that it won't get like cross-pollinated? It was fun. Okay, well, I love you guys. Hope that kind of got your wheels turning. Now you just have to decide what you want to start growing, find and acquire your seeds, and then find those ones specifically up north. If you're going to try to survive through what's coming, you will want to make sure you have plenty of seeds of the biennials because you don't have time to save those seeds. You don't have time for 2 years. Make sure you have enough seeds. The annuals, like tomatoes, you just one tomato plant gives you like 30 seeds right there for the next year's plants. I mix them all up though, because since I did have so many and I had thousands, what I would do is I'd squeeze the seeds into a jar, swish them all together, and then make sure I had a mix of genetic variety. So I would only save seeds from the plants that looked and did the best, but also the biggest fruit and the earliest producing fruits. So I was very selective with my breeding process, but I would mash them all together so that it wasn't just from one plant. I know, so much to learn. Some of you are not lost. Some of you are like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die of starvation during the tribulation. Lord, just thank you for blessing me with salvation. I'll be home soon. That's probably how some of you feel. Take a deep breath. It gets easier. But that book right here for the Northern gardeners, even for the Southern gardeners, it'd be one more book quickly. I'll show you this one too. Oh. Oh my goodness, I have so many books. Dang it, I can never stop because I have so much. Here's a good one, Self-Sufficiency on 1 acre, on a quarter acre. So this book is Mini Farming and it's by Brett L. Markham. Mini Farming, Self-Sufficiency on a quarter acre. This is really good for small spaces. Can you even see that? Mini Farming. Okay, so it's backwards, I know. But also I have a small Squarespace gardening book that I got once. That's pretty cool too, because you can do really compact gardening ideas from that for those of you who need the space or help. This one, everybody should own this if you save seeds. Again, I think the end of the world's pretty near, so you may not want to waste your brain cells on this right now. Just learn the Bible and do what you can. This is Seed to Seed by Susan Ashworth. Fantastic book. I read that thing a million times. This was for me. I loved this when I did my farming. This is successful small scale farming. When I grew my wheat, my different crops, oats and whatnot, this book was good for me. I don't know if any of you have that ability or space to do it. So there we go. I love you all, and I will see you tonight. And some of you I'll see very soon with pictures. Okay, I love you guys. Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You
Bye.
guys, let's just make it through with some food. Love you guys.